Thank you for your comments. It's always educational to hear from people who pay the tax. What's the pleasure of the board? I just want to hear from this. Got a phone call. Mr. Mayor.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let's just get going here with our discussion. I did want to ask to make a motion later on after we engage in some discussion first, but I wanted to clear up a couple of things. One is, we're not considering this issue tonight instead of local projects. We have been pursuing local projects since I've been here for 22 years. We're far ahead. We have the most advanced water purification plant on the planet, including Israel. And we're about to improve that and quadruple that very soon. In fact, next month, by August, we will have a P3 RFP out to do so, to quadruple that plant. We're working on conservation. We have a tremendous, we in fact during the drought, which some of us are some kind of forgetting in our discussions, make tremendous investments in conservation and continue to do so, and still hold to a voluntary request on conservation in our counties. Some people said we shouldn't do it, and we did. We're engaged in a pursuit of looking at what we do with stormwater, with our partners at the cities in the county. We're pursuing storage outside the county, inside the county, wherever that's possible. We have a joint agreement with agencies in the peninsula on desalination over in Contra Costa. We have executed 2 months ago an agreement with Contra Costa County Sanitation District to recycle water there in Contra Costa, together with us as partners. So we are engaged in looking at every possible local and regional solution to supply. So this is not, we're not looking at this issue tonight as either or. This is in addition to what we're doing. And secondly, I want to make it real clear. What we're talking about isn't in the future, but it was in the past. And that's a state water project. When I first got on this board, I served with a gentleman named Jim Lenahan, who 38 years he served on this board and was a founding member of the State Water Project and the Valley Water Project. And he in those days was very involved, as was Governor Emmett G. Brown. This is exactly where we are right now. We're trying to find what we do with climate change and some of the other issues that we have to face. But it was in those days that we made agreements with the State Water Project that we're still dealing with today. We're not creating a new project here. The State Water Project is going to upgrade the project that we're part of. And if we don't participate in any of the recommendations, any way in the recommendations that the staff is providing today, they're going to do it anyway. So the question is, what do we do? I think there's a couple things we can do. One is do nothing. The other one is try and participate in any way possible with a promotion of our guiding principles, because with no representation, I know people keep talking about Met, but you know what? If we don't participate, that's all that is going to be there, is Met. So we can keep talking about it, but that's what's going to happen. So that's what I look at is, it's a question of whether we participate or we don't participate. And obviously, I'm a person that wants to participate. We stand in the shoes of the people who we represent. And I'm not about to stand here and watch these guys do this project, do whatever they're gonna do in the Delta, build all these, construct all these tunnels, and do nothing about it and not participate. I'm not gonna do that. That's not what I'm doing on the board. So like I said, Mr. Chairman, I will have a motion later on after we have discussion. I'll listen to all my colleagues and see what they have to say.
No, I think that's great, Tom, that, you know, somebody has to break the mold here and start talking about stuff so we can, and I know that, we've had a whole lot of information today, and, I don't like passing the buck. But I can tell you this, just from my perspective, and I'm gonna yield to the board here, and then I'll finish up. I'm not in that position this time. There's a lot of stuff that came to me that I wanna make sure I'm making the right decision. I am in a quandary. I just talked about personally how I feel. We got more things to say here, so, Ms. Keegan.
Thank you. I'd like to make a few comments, but before that, I'd like to start with a couple of questions for staff. Many of the comments that we've heard from the public tonight have been that the recommended action is premature. Comments like, well, not everything is pulled together yet. All the gubernatorial candidates are saying they oppose the project, things like that. Our decision is not irrevocable. I mean, in other words, if the project doesn't come to fruition, then we're out, right? So to say that we need to wait until some future date, I don't think is a necessity. This is just getting us started in conversations, if you will. C.E.O. Camacho, could you reply to that?
And I would absolutely agree with you at this point in time, because the thing is that, like we said in the board memo, that if conditions should change again, we would come back to the board to have a similar discussion. And this project has been going through a whole series of ups and downs and changes over time. And so, but I think that if it does change, and if we're not sitting at the table, we're not going to be able to influence the change at that point in time. And so I really, strongly, recommend that the board continue with staff's recommendation and approve at least being part of the discussion.
Thank you. My second question is, and we may not be able to immediately respond to this, but Ms. Desjardins brought up a risk letter in terms of some of the elements of the agreements, and so I don't know whether staff is prepared to respond to that, or maybe our response is that that's something that we would take a look at further to verify our position is appropriate. Okay, thank you. So in terms of my comments, could we go to slide 9, please? So I like to bring up this slide, and I think a lot of others have referred to it. And it's a simple slide, but it also kind of says a lot, right? Because it shows what the price per acre foot are of various options, but in addition to that, it shows the quantity of water. And so we definitely are supportive of looking at all of these options as part of our water portfolio. But some of them are great ones, like additional conservation and stormwater. It's a good price, it's a reasonable yield, but it's not the same kind of yield as the California water fix. And when you have a portfolio, it's like you want to have different things at different prices if you intend to keep your prices low. So I just wanted to point that out. And then if we look at slide 25, which is our guiding principles, I want to get back to that because a lot of people have commented on our guiding principles, but as one of the board members who helped develop those principles, some people's interpretation of what we meant is different than mine, and I think some of the other co-authors. And so I really think that all of the principles are important, but the ones that really resonated with me as we were developing them are 1, 2, and 4. Santa Clara County needs are primary. Santa Clara County not disadvantaged by Central Valley agriculture or Southern California. And then number 4, cost is affordable. We are all ratepayers. All of us sitting up on this dais, our staff, we all pay for water. And we all want the same thing. We want to have enough water and affordable water that benefits our community. And to just say that we could give up all of our imported water and still meet that goal, I don't think is realistic. You know, my preference, when we took our action back in October, I did like the idea of a scaled down project. And we were able to promote that because there was a funding gap, right? There wasn't enough money to build a full project. That circumstance has changed now. Our contribution hasn't changed. We're still making the same contribution as we did then. We're still entering into the same kind of agreement. But what's different is that the project is bigger. And I understand that that gives a lot of people heartburn. It gives me some concern too. But in terms of my decision, I really think that it's important that we stay engaged, because I do not trust Southern California and agribusiness to be looking out for the interests of Northern California. One example was that it was Santa Clara Valley Water District that pushed to have an environmental group as part of the whole governance structure. If we hadn't been advocating for that, it wouldn't have happened. And the environmental impacts are going to be happening in Northern California. That's why it was so important to us to make that recommendation that it needs to be in place. Something else that I want to talk about is the fact that, you know, we've heard from a number of parties who represent the larger community, if you will, regarding the fact that having an adequate supply of water now and in the future are very important for our local economy. If we want places for our children and grandchildren to live, we have to have an adequate supply of water to be able to make that happen. The Silicon Valley organization, in their letter to us, says, the SCVWD believes that a reliable water supply is essential to California's economy and to support businesses in Silicon Valley. The Water Fix project is one of the most affordable options to support a reliable and regional water supply that will also power Silicon Valley's long-term economic engine. Mayor Sam Liccardo sent us a letter. The Water Fix provides the insurance policy against future disruption during droughts and disasters that our region will need. The time is now for the Santa Clara Valley Water District to join the effort and ensure Silicon Valley's water future by the California Water Fix. This has been a very long and difficult process, I think, for all of us on the board. You know, we've had countless meetings on this subject. We've heard from many, many people, and yet it's still an item that's under contention. I think in some ways there's a lot of emotions that go along with this as opposed to the reality of water rates. And much of those emotions have to do with the potential for Southern California water grabs and the lack of trust that has been there in the past. And I share that lack of trust. I share that concern. I don't take it for granted that other people are going to be looking out for the best interests of our community or the best interests of the Delta. And I'm also someone who's spent a lot of time in the Delta, and it is a special place. And I do think, particularly with having us participate in the design and construction entity, that we'll be poised to be in a position to look out for those impacts and make sure that they're not unacceptable to the community. So I will defer to my colleague, Director Estramera, to ultimately make the motion, but at the end of the day, it comes back to me, to the fact that we need to keep our water rates affordable. We can't rely on higher, solely on higher cost alternatives, and we need to stay in the game so we can continue to look out for the best interests of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Mr. President?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, if I had a choice between 0 tunnels, 1 tunnels, 2 tunnels, I'd pick the 1 tunnel option. Unfortunately, that's not before us today. I would like it to be before us, but there would be a lot of things I'd like. I'd like there to be some great water conservation technologies that could save more than 11,000 acre-feet. I've probably seen everyone, been a judge at Imagine H2O, the leading nonprofit in water conservation. I've seen everything. I've put money personally in the 3 water conservation companies. There are laws of physics. Google is not going to invent something new. They also are subject to the law of physics. So we are where we are. We do have to make decisions. We have to make decisions, and many times decisions are made under uncertainty. We're not going to have absolute facts. That's one of the things why we're here, to kind of take into consideration risk and return. And I think we have to make the best decision with the information we have today. We just can't kick the can like this project's been kicked. If they would have maybe fixed this when they were doing the state water project in the beginning, we'd have less. This is a hard one. There's people like Dave Pochel who I respect and listen to their opinions. I really do care about economic justice. If we look at slide 9 again,
Yes.
water rates are important, and the idea of having to buy them on water during the drought on the spot market, or if we do what we're talking about in portable reuse, that's $1 billion we're going to spend. That's 40% bigger than this project. Desal, if we could, I'd do it. I know there's opposition to it. There's opposition to every project. There's always a lawsuit. That's California with C.E.O, and we see them all. But I think at the end of the day, while I'd like it to be 1 tunnel, I think this is what's before us, and I think we're doing better than we thought before. We've added governance. We're watching Southern California. In LA, we become chair at first. We're going to control where local jobs go. Hopefully, we get a carve out for people here. So I'm going to support this project.
The only person missing today at the podium, it would have been a real surprise if Thomas Robert Malthus was here. It's been 200 years since he's died. It would have been interesting to listen to his predictions that he predicted 200 years ago about the population explosion and where we're at today from what he prophesied back then. An amazing human being, an economist that talked about shortages, food shortages, famine, disease, water, 300 years ago. What I support continued conservation. I support recycling and continued water purification and expansion of water purification. I support stormwater capture. You realize how much water we lose into our bay each year because we do not have the storage capacity up and down the state? Garth, what number did we hear not so long ago? It was 300 million gallons of water that we lost into the San Francisco Bay. That's just one location. I also support expansion of our storage facilities. When we brought a compromise agreement to the board in October, it was like pulling teeth. It was challenging then. Deja vu, we're right back at it again. But what was interesting is how there were board members then that were conflicted. As some are expressing today, they are conflicted again. But we reached a decision unilaterally. All 7 board members came together. They voiced their opinions. They voiced their concerns. but we came together with what we considered a good plan. And it was well endorsed up and down the state, even the Department of Water Resources. I understand even the chair of the board of Metropolitan Water also endorsed our plan. Well, here we are today. Things have changed, we are here. But one of the things I'm real concerned about is, we're looking at this graph right here about this low cost, greatest amount of water rates in the future, is that the people that are not in this room speaking. The constituents, we represent close to 2 million people. And all your faces are familiar. All your messages are familiar. You've been here on just about every occasion when we're talking about an investment. You're the same folks. And thank you for coming here. Thank you for reminding us of our obligations. But perhaps most of you don't live in this area. Many of you come from other parts of the state. I represent 2 million people in Santa Clara County. That's what I represent. And I'm concerned that they're not in the room. So I'm their voice. Because they elected to be their voice. So one of the things I'm real concerned about is, we talk about a runaway train. Well, I'm talking about runaway rates. Perhaps what I'd like to recommend for our board of directors is to place on the agenda a rate structure that we can consider for a demographic that currently is challenged to meet a lot of the rates that they're facing. As an example, PG&E has a structured rate program for qualifying ratepayers that don't meet certain levels because of economic stress. Well, if we're going to continue to invest and we're going to have to raise rates, perhaps we can have that discussion amongst ourselves to have some kind of adjustment for those in a particular demographic that are being literally priced out of this marketplace. Those of us that are fortunate enough to have lived here 40, 50 years, as I have seen the economic boom that has occurred in our region. But yet there are those that will never be able to participate in that. They're being literally priced out of the market. I'm concerned about that. I represent those people. We talk about agriculture. Well, I also represent agriculture. And they're hurting. We have agriculture in Santa Clara County. We've lost an enormous amount of land over the last 15, 20 years. That was all agriculture. Look at Silicon Valley today. And what was it yesterday? It was the Valley of Heart's Delight. Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, all these beautiful areas that today are occupied by some of the most dynamic, incredible technology companies on the planet. Job creators, innovators, disruptors, all those words. And I would like to sit down with them and say, hey, maybe we could use some of your technology and your ideas to come up with more cost-effective ways to deliver our product or water. And I'm going to do that. So I'm very frustrated that we're visiting this again. I still believe in the terminology of compromise. I've heard our staff here, marvelous people, the due diligence that they have, that they put into bringing this information to this body, to you, the public, to understand, to dissect. Some of you accept it, many of you don't. But I do, because I know the work that they've done. They're here till late hours of the day, weekends, working constantly to make sure that the decision makers are well informed. That when we make the decision, that we give you first the opportunity to come in front of us and present yourselves in your position. And then it's up to us. As I sit here at this very moment, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think it's important. Water supply for the state is immensely important. I don't consider Southern California or the Central Valley enemies. They're thirsty people, just like you are. I have family in Southern California. I grew up in Southern California. Some of you are calling it a water grab. I call it survival. You want to read about a water grab? Read this book. Are you familiar with it? Kings of Cotton? Gary, you're smiling. You must have read it. This was California in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The Central Valley, how agriculture began, how water was fought over for Southern California, for Central California, and in Northern California. Highly recommend this. You'll be fascinated with this read. So, whatever the decision is tonight by our board on the resolutions that are in front of us, life will go on. Those are my comments. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Dr. Sheila?
Thank you, Chair. I first want to thank all the people attending today's meeting, providing your comments to the board. I carefully listened to every one of your comments, and I do share a lot of similar concerns. For example, the cost of the project, uncertainty of the cost is going to increase. There's going to be scope creep. There's do I worry about those things? Yes, I do worry about those things. But then I see this as me as an elected person. My number one job is to make sure that this county has adequate water supply and high quality water supply, not for today, but out for the future. I always tell people that I'm 65 years old. I probably don't need to worry about the water supply picture in Santa Clara County. But then if we don't do the advanced planning that we need to be doing right now, our children and our children's children, they'll probably should be worried about the water supply in the future. So I see this proposed water fix as a component of the overall portfolio. This organization is responsible for the future water supply. So I will support moving forward, supporting staff's recommendation under the 7 guiding principles the board adopted in October 2017. With that said, I also want to add a comment. I don't know if it will be helpful or not, but I also see this water fix project, although it's really big, is, as Director Astramera said, it's a past project. And then this project, as constructed past, is facing a broken stage that, to me, this is, you can look at it in a simple manner that it's an infrastructure rehab project, simply as the Water District's own project of Anderson Dam retrofit project. We're going to spend $500 million for that project. It could be more. I mean, the cost is just continue to be refined as we study more and more about the challenges and regulatory requirements. However, by spending that amount of money, we're not getting one additional drop of water that's going to be accumulated behind the behind the dam. So it's, to me, it's almost the same situation, although one is a lot bigger than the other. But our share at this water fix project today, it's estimated $650 million compared to our own project on Anderson Dam, estimated at $500 million. It's actually pretty comparable. So I don't know if that's helped us have a new perspective of this water fix, but I want to say that. And also that I want to thank Director Estromero, Director Keegan, and Director Cramer for your effort in spending all this time. Did a lot of good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony?
I'll just say, I just had one more thing, a couple things to add very quickly. I wanted to thank the folks for coming by to talk to us. I assure you we listen. I think many of you have come to our meetings and have expressed support for different projects that we've done. This is what I read today alone. I had 2 more of these stacks from emails from people for, against, others with new proposals and stuff. So we definitely appreciate input and we listen all the time. I did want to express support for adding on one of our recommendations that I want to move this evening was the water affordability analysis. It's something that I think Director Varela did address. We have discussed this before with respect to economic justice. We represent the poorest folks in the county along with Director Santos. This is an issue that we have always been pretty concerned about. And so I think we ought to add a review of water affordability and as Director Varela mentioned, the CARE project of PG&E that some of us are familiar with is something that I think we ought to consider. And so I want to add this later on to a motion that we could look at along with some of the other things that we're looking at tonight.
Well, thank you, Tony. That's really good. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I came into this room in October, I was heavily leaning towards not voting in favor of the project. I don't want to say thankfully or not, but thankfully my colleagues, Director Estromero, Keegan and Kremen, put together their memo with the guiding principles. And, you know, I looked at it as a way to keep us in the game, still having an off-ramp. And I never believed for one moment that the second phase, the building of the second tunnel, would ever happen. I don't think anybody did. And so, you know, with all of those things in mind, as everyone knows, it was a unanimous vote. But now we're in a different position, and a lot of my concerns from that first meeting have resurfaced. The cost, I don't believe for a minute. The environment, I have concerns about the environment. And I don't see the need for 2 tunnels. On the other hand, Met has put us in a position where we're, you know, we need to be at the table. And so I'm highly conflicted, highly conflicted. And, you know, my 2 colleagues who wrote the 2 memos, for good or bad, have had the benefit of being kept up to speed more regularly and in depth than the remainder of the board. And so I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to just throw this out. If I'm going to support or not support this, what's before us, I need to be able to articulate either way. And I can't do that. I can't do that tonight. And so I'm going to throw out there that we put this over a week, 2 weeks. There's absolutely no reason to rush this. Those agreements, I still have a lot of questions. I don't know that I can support a JPA agreement. It gives Met 2 votes. I think we can renegotiate that or not. That's a question. I still, you know, I want to reread the adaptive management plan. because of my concerns about the environment. And it's always, for me, it's always been about my concerns about the environment. What will this do to the Delta? And so, like I said, I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. I can't articulate a yay or a nay. And so I need a week or 2 weeks to be able to do that. You have 4 votes. If you want to move forward, you probably have 4 votes. But I'm asking for indulgence of my colleagues to give me the opportunity, and perhaps some of my other colleagues, the opportunity to have a little more time to digest everything that we've had thrown at us in the last couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you, but your thinking is where I'm at. And we're all together here because I work with all these folks here, and they're passionate, and they really care, they've done a lot of homework. Unfortunately, it all came at one time, and I'm not ready to digest it or understand it yet. So I understand all the left side of all the positive sides, and then I understand a whole bunch over here that has not done. For me, it's not a couple of weeks now. And so let me explain to you why, and maybe you'll understand my point of view here, and maybe you'll consider this. So let me start with my notes. First of all, I totally agree with Barbara and Gary and Tony and their memo. We got to stay engaged. There's no question. If you're going to do business, I personally think it's going to be a legal battle. In other words, I don't believe, and I've talked to our legal counsel, that the state of California could take our water after 50-something years of giving us water for 2 million people, then arbitrarily take it because they want to opt in. I really don't. And I think the courts are going to be full of all this. And I don't know if we're ever going to achieve this water fix, because I see it's in court for the next 10 years. And I'll be out of here. Well, so let me make some comments, and bear with me, please. I'm not trying to sway anybody. I'm just telling you how I feel and where I'm going. I'm not prepared to make a decision today. Not because I'm not prepared, I'm not going. Today, there's 1 billion people that walk 3.5 miles just to have access to water. So in this county, we're spoiled. You turn on the faucet, and you get it. But as I said, not to be pompous, the well will go dry. So I totally agree with my fellow colleagues. The Delta's got Band-Aids, you got to fix it. But we really did so, and we've had 50 meetings. I totally agree. We've had 50 meetings over this issue. It hasn't been, like Tony said, just a couple of years ago. We've been doing this stuff for years. Whether you're coming aboard 10 years ago or you've been in the last 5 years, we have. So we take it for granted and so on. But here's some things I've been to the state, I've been to the federal. I've asked all the elected officials. They have not supported this. Does that mean that I should or not? I don't understand it. Now, I'm not knocking the governor, he has to do his job. But when I ask the senators or congressional people, other than, you got one letter from NISU, we've had Congressman Aaron Mendy, that's not the only people. I haven't got any support. I said, well, how come? And most of it has said this to me: water conservation, storage, do those things. So, how come? So they haven't supported this thing. So let me go on, please. Then you have your new people running for governor. They have not supported this. So what's the rush? We're going to make a decision in 8 months, and we're out. We do projects here. Now, many projects that we do here in the district, it says not to exceed $2-3 million. How come we're not doing that here? How come we don't say not to exceed $650 million? And if it does, come back and have a meeting and sit down and find out, is there addendums, is there changes? That's a democratic way. Not slam dunk this process where you have no recourse. And it just escalated. So there is no monitoring, there is no sunset, there's no democracy here. You're imposing it on people who don't have a vote. That bothers me. So when we voted for fluoride, I didn't like it. But I sat there and I looked at the scientific evidence, and I went on my own. I did a lot of stuff, and I said, well, I don't want to put nothing in someone's body. But then I looked at the low-income people and so on who don't have the same opportunity, and I said, you know what? I can support that because it's $40 million, and we got partners. Where's my partners here? I'm going to be out, not me, the public here, $650 million. So again, no sunset, no monitoring, and it continues escalating. Today, people do not trust government, whether it be the bridges, whether it be the speed rail, and all we're doing is saying, well, we can just, you can't. You gotta sit down, so the way I understand some of the contract, we can meet after 3 years and then we can abolish it. It doesn't happen. When you put a road down, it continues. So once you start building cement, you start doing things. So I'm gonna respond to my notes. And here's probably one of the biggest, hardest things for me as a person. Go to the donut shop on Sunday, and the church ladies over in St. Victor's come in, and they always say, Richard, we saw your name in the paper, and you're saying this, and you're doing good things. And I said, well, thank you so much. How do you think we're doing? Well, you got doing a good job, contradiction and so on. And before I left Sunday, they said, don't forget, Richard, 1 tunnel. And I looked, and as I walked out, I felt real bad inside. So far, no one has convinced me. And that's the only reason I voted for this on October 17th, was because my colleagues came up with some great solutions. And I said, you know what? That seems to be fair. Now they're being diminished. So, in my opinion, I'm going to go a little bit more, just bear with me. We need to pick up and sit down as a group and really discuss these things, because this is too fast. When you go to labor, my friend will say, I've been there, been a labor man all my life. Let's don't be fooled here. Let's keep jobs in Santa Clara County. Now, of course, we want jobs in the whole of California. Of course we do. But that window period will only be a short period of time until it's built. We've always said, let's continue jobs. But I can't get, you don't get a job and then turn around and charge you no cap on spending. It just doesn't make sense. So there's going to be jobs where they have Band-Aids in the Delta. You're going to have, as you remember, when Arnold was in office, we had a major flood over there. Those levees all broke. Well, we patched them all back together and we continued. So there's always going to be jobs there, and there may be maybe more jobs in the long run the way it is, as opposed to once you build the tunnel, because it may be less maintenance and less jobs. So those are things we've got to take a look at. So got that down. The last thing, and then let's go to the low income thing. I totally agree. That's from the start. Those are things that we need as a board and as our staff to sit down and address those issues with colleagues. But again, I still say yes, we have to stay engaged. But I can't support this motion the way they are right now from A to I. Now here's the thing that some people may understand and may not. In July, the Water Commission will be meeting. And at the time, we're supposed to get, we hope, $450 million for the Pacheco Dam. Well, you need storage. So why am I going to put the cart before the horse? If we get $450 million in July, then let's talk about not exceeding $650 million as partnership. But if you don't get 450, why am I investing in water? And I can't store it nowhere. So I've got to think out of the box and think about it here. Do I want to spend $1 billion or do I want to spend $650? Because I need 450 for that dam. So there's no promises. We qualified for it. Our staff did a great job. They worked hard. Director Kremen led the way. I mean, he did an outstanding job going here and there, continuing on his day off, doing this, doing that. I don't think he has any day off. And we all chipped in. But now we have a chance to store water. So you need to store water first. And I understand if you don't get water, then it doesn't do any good. But why be in the hook? One more time, follow me out. 650 or 450? Why put $1 billion when you can get 450? After you get 450, then let's meet with the staff of the governor and all the participants at D.W.R. and all the Bureau of Reclamation. Then let's sit down and with vet and let's talk. Now we got something to talk about because we have security. We have a dam. We can put water in. The human basic need is we all entitled to need to look into entitlement of water. And we're all, I could probably go on all night. I know this, that we need to have a number that we can say it can't exceed this. So you folks know if you're paying $10.26, and when I'm gone 20 years from today or 10 years from today, you're not paying $55 a month. That's important because no one of these projects don't have it. And we've had these kind of problems in our own district. We have board members here that came in and said, hold it, we're going to stop doing this kind of stuff. You can't just keep on spending. So, and here's the last thing that most people don't want to do. And when we have to exceed $650 million, you put down, yes, I understand the cost of construction. Well, you have a legally of 6 to 10%. I can handle those things. And here's the last thing. When you're in their quandary, and you want me to impose on people, well, why don't you go ahead and have a vote? That's called democracy. When we're in such a quandary here, and someone will say, well, it's gonna cost you $70 million for the budget. That's taxpayers' money. And this is a taxpayers' issue. You wanna be fair, and we go into a quandary, let the people vote. That's what that all says. So, all my favorites out there, you guys will bear with me. I say, have the meeting after July to find out what we got in dam storage. Then sit down and have a good dialogue. But I do agree with Tony, and because the group here, we need to sit down and stay engaged. So that's my talk, and I feel good because it's out. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair Santos. Very well spoken. And I was remiss in not thanking my fellow board members earlier for the work that they put into this. So I want to go on record as also thanking them for the hard work and the due diligence that they put into this. As for the suggestion to allow us more time before we enter into it, but it appears that you have a vote to move forward on this project. But I am also one of those that I could change my mind. I have previously. And I could say, this is good, but right now I cannot say that. But if I had more time to listen to all the issues that we're going to be that we're being asked to do tonight. And this information, believe me folks, when I tell you this, we just got it this week. Pages and pages and pages of information, much of it we were not talking about. That we fellow board members, with the exception of those that were in it from the very beginning, it didn't come out right. So anyway, so if this board is inclined to hold off on tonight's vote, I think that would be a smart move, and I support that idea. Director Keegan.
Thank you, Chair Santos. I just want to express my concern about making our participation in this contingent upon any action taken regarding the storage project. I hope that was not your intent when you spoke. I think these should be independent actions. Thank you.
We have Director Kremen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for your words. I agree with Director Keegan. These are separate issues. You know, I've been critical from time to time of staff, and I ask a lot of questions, but I think I trust here that staff negotiated the best deal, and that waiting a week isn't going to change the rule. You know, the golden rule, she with the gold makes the rules, and that Metropolitan Water District has the gold. If they had 4 seats, I can understand why they might want it. I think our staff's negotiated the best deal that we're going to get, and I don't see how a week's going to change that. This project, if you looked at the original EIR, it was so heavy it could, you know, collapse. It was 300 pounds. We've all seen a picture of the governor with the thing. I want us to get there, getting leadership, be able to keep those jobs local here. We'll have part of the hiring decisions and being sure they put PLAs in and things that we care about. So I'd like to get the sense of my colleagues. I don't see what a week, how it's going to be any difference. I'd like to have a vote now, but I'll listen to what everyone else has to say.
Director Schmidt.
Yeah, I feel the same way Director Kremen does. If we're talking about waiting till July, that ain't gonna happen. Because they're just gonna go do what they want to. I've already mentioned that. That's what it is. The condition is what it is. It isn't what we want. Okay? We're not wishing here. We're dealing with what the condition is, which is they're gonna do the project. Do we want to participate or not? If we don't want to, fine. If we want to, fine. It's not, let's keep negotiating. It's not like we have any negotiating power. Now, I could see a week or something with you know, a bunch of Mercury News articles repeating the same thing, or are we really going to get something out of it? If you guys want to put it off, think you can do something in a week, then I think we could wait, because we've always held back on a request from our colleagues. Nothing new. But putting stuff off to put it off ain't gonna work. So if it's gonna be something that's constructive for us, we got a meeting on Tuesday, or Wednesday or something else, but You know, if you just want to put it up, but you don't want to make a decision, I don't blame you. I don't want to make a decision either. But they're going to do what they're going to do, and we got to make a decision, or not make a decision. But not making a decision is making a decision. So I think if there's some construction, something constructive about waiting, and we have a date we move it to, like Tuesday or Wednesday or something, then I think we ought to do that. But other than that, I suggest we go through the recommendations one at a time, in case, you know, folks want to change some, and there is a way that we can find a concurrence. There may be a way we can find a concurrence, or we can wait until next week and still do the same and see if we can find a concurrence.
Mr. Yamamoto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure that there was some clarification on a statement I think you made, Mr. Chair, and that was your intent, at least your thought was that you might not vote on whatever Mr. Estamera decides to present to the board. And under the board's governance policies, that all board members, once they've answered the call, the roll call, they have to vote. There is no abstentions under your own rules. So that was a point, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I don't get it. I didn't say I was gonna vote, I just said, I still don't even understand, we're talking about two different projects in the dam and so on. I'm talking about money, and what we have, and so on, so I'm lost. I don't know what you're saying.
I'm just saying that if a board member, if Mr. Estamera made a motion and another board member seconded it, and a roll call was taken, each board member here would have to vote either yes or no. That's the only thing I was saying.
I never objected to that in any kind of capacity.
Okay, thank you.
That's
That's all.
always on my mind.
Thank you.
Director Schiller.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in agreement with Director Estamera's comment that if we delay this to the next board meeting or within a week, I can support that because I heard at least from two board members that they felt that it's a lot of information came to them in a short period of time. So additional time just to digest the information, ask clarifying questions. I think if we can accommodate that, that would be helpful. So I can support that.
My request was exactly what the director should have said. And I thought I had expressed myself. I just need time to digest everything I've taken. I don't want to take a vote, but I can't articulate why I'm taking that vote. And that's the only reason I need a week. You know, I don't think it's more. I've got a couple more questions, but it's simply to be able to articulate whatever decision I intend to make. Because if you force a vote right now, I'm going to probably do something out of spite. I don't want to take a vote out of spite. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, my point was that I want to continue negotiating, so on, but I don't know what everybody else's interpretations, and maybe I didn't come across right. First of all, when I say about the dam, that dam's going to be in July, and that gives you an idea what kind of money we have available. That's all I'm saying. It could be two different issues. That's not the issue. It tells you what kind of monies you have. What I also said is that you should put down $650 million if that's the case, and say it doesn't exceed that. So those are things I think that need to be looked at before we take a vote. I hope we don't, because these are things that we have to still test on these things, and there's more to be done. So I'm not prepared at this time to support this unless we look at more negotiations. Let's go to Director Kerman.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think, again, decision making under uncertainty, you're never going to have all the data to make a decision. We've 54 public meetings on this topic. But, if we continue the meeting to our next board meeting, which is about the only day I can do it next week, if that's it, if we want to go through this again, I'm not sure what's going to change, but out of respect for my colleagues, and I'm willing to consider that.
Director Keegan.
Yes, I understand Director Lazat's concerns. It is a lot of information to absorb. I think delaying it until our next meeting is not unreasonable. if that's something that we can do.
Maybe a special meeting before.
Or perhaps staff can get back to us with some options, or we have to know now.
Hold on, we got Director Sheila.
Thank you, Chair, that I don't want to add any complication to this, but I was going to request is that if the board decides to move this item to next week, I'd like to request a staff prepare a simple explanation about, I think earlier, the D.W.R. Director, when she was talking about the one tunnel analysis D.W.R. performed, she made a statement about this one tunnel alternative does not address the reverse flow fishery issue. And I think that's an important aspect of moving forward for everybody to understand. So that's my request.
Thank you. Do we got Director Sheila's request now? Got it? Okay, thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I think we ought to just, we ought to just move it to Tuesday. We have a Tuesday meeting, so we can just either add it.
Got you all down, it's coming, right? We don't talk for it.
So we could just add it either after or before. We could just check and see who's
I
available.
think we should have a special meeting at the end of the month.
No, I'm done with this thing now.
Just hold on there.
That's it.
I thought we were gonna talk about a motion, but don't we have rights here to speak? Just
Well, I'll make a
break.
motion then. I'm happy to make a motion
Hold
to
on.
move this.
Come back. We'll come back to you. Let's go, Nina, go ahead, Nina, you're up.
Thank you. Through the
Hold on,
chair, there's a little bit more information I just want to share regarding the Construction Design Construction Authority. It is scheduled to have its potential first meeting next Thursday. That is one of the reasons why staff is moving quickly to get you this information and get it in front of you. I don't have a sense as to when they need to post the agenda by what time, but that may play into if we were to have, and the board at their pleasure would want in a follow-up meeting to actually see if there's interest to sign on to that formation.
Thank you. Mr. Morello.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I was going to suggest I'm going to move the next meeting to the scheduled meeting on the 8th, if we could start earlier in the day. 9 o'clock, if we could possibly do that. Give us time to go through that, and then our regular agenda for approving the budget next week.
People keep on having those thoughts, we'll work with staff home, and Tony, you're up.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I think we'll just move it to Tuesday, either whatever works for folks, whether it's earlier or later.
Okay, hold on, but I'm hearing from the consensus of the board members that they want to put this on for the 8th. Do we have time in the 10-day period and that kind of stuff? To do this kind of thing?
Special meeting.
No, he's gonna, whatever.
Michelle, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to turn it on.
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will have council confirm, but I believe since we did, if we are just continuing this item, we did post it last Friday with the supplemental items last night. So we would need a 10-day requirement to include it on our May 8th agenda. But I will look at district council to confirm my thought on
So
that.
here's what some of the consensus is, take a look at the laws and the rules. If we can, we wanted to put it on the 8th early in the morning to start. But let's see what you've got to
Yeah, and
say.
then if that doesn't work, we can call a special meeting before the regular meeting. So I think either way, you can have it on May 8th.
Okay, let me ask one more time.
Let's stand away.
Norma, can staff be ready for the 8th if that's the case? Stan, you got any problem with that? Go ahead.
Well, if we do a special meeting on this, remember, well, I'm just kind of concerned on whether or not if new information is being requested, is that going to be enough time for the board members to digest that information? And so, unless we go and continue to discuss the existing information that we have before us today, I mean, we'll do our best to try to move this forward.
Okay, let me start down with Gary, come all the way across here and come to the top. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's only a button.
I know. With respect to continuing the item onto the May 8th agenda, that can be done because 270-something pages of materials have already been published and met the 10-day posting and that sort of thing. I think it would be a good idea to call a special meeting because your normal meeting date time is 1 p.m. on the first Tuesday of every month, and here you're gonna move it up. If you wanna move it up to sometime in the morning, it's probably a good idea to give people notice now, even though there's a 24-hour requirement, as much notice as you possibly can to the public that, you know, we're gonna have this item continue on to the May 8th agenda. I think that would satisfy the requirements of the round.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Gary, all around. What's your take, Gary?
I mean, it's challenging. Yeah, thank you. Would it be possible to do it after, or could we intersperse it in the other meeting? Does it have to be before or after?
My sense is that if you want to continue to a special meeting, do it before or after, not throw it in the middle of it.
Okay, after would be easier for me.
I'll make myself available either way.
Linda?
After's fine, and I'm not looking for extra information, any information I'll get.
Tom, go with
After's fine.
Okay. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, it's, I will make myself available whenever the board decides. And if my earlier request complicates this thing, discard my request. And this extension or continuation of this item, I think it's primarily for the board member benefit to have additional time to digest the information that's already produced and then presented to us. So it's not for any of you to make more paper.
We also want to say, Mike, thanks for coming in. We had a good call. Thank you. John, go ahead. Go ahead, John. Yes, okay, so on the 8th, my plan is to be here through the budget hearings, and I have to leave for the Aqua Conference. What time do you leave? We'll finish our budget discussions. That's why we're looking at the first item on the agenda. That's why I suggested we start early in the morning with this particular suggestion. Are you available between 11 and 3 o'clock? I'd like to get out of here by 2 o'clock if that's not possible, but that's the answer I'm trying to get. That's it. Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I'm fine after, but I did want to make sure that we added this water affordability analysis as part of the recommendation, so that we could talk about it.
Does staff have that? Yes, sorry.
So just for clarification, the water affordability analysis, when does the board want to see that come back to this board?
As part of this recommendation, so we can ask for it.
Oh, okay,
Just have
to add it, okay. Okay. We will add that.
And I would like to see that also, and maybe taking into consideration some of the other alternatives and show how they would affect affordability, because we're not
I
looking
think
at
just the issues I'm going to discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Or any other, you haven't finished? Anybody out there? Anybody else? Okay. What do we want to do? What did you set the time at? It's going to be May 8th at 9 a.m.
We do 9:30.
9:30, going 9, going 8, going 4, going 7, 12.
Now we're done.
How about 9:30? Is that reasonable? Everybody? 9:30 on the 8th, please?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
a motion to that effect would be appropriate at this time.
Okay, let me take a motion for 9:30.
Special meeting.
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by John, second by Gary. All in favor?
Special meeting.
All opposed? That carries. You snooze, you lose. That's the date. Okay. Anything else? So what do we do now? So 2.1, we're deferring that till May 8th at 9:30. So, again, it's not been easy, but I sure appreciate your patience, listening, and the interest you've given us. And we go on to 3.1, clerk review clarification of board request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can get my computer working. I have a request from Director Keegan. She requested that staff investigate issues that were raised by Ms. DeJarnes and in her letter that she presented. I have a request from Director Varela that staff agendize discussion on the rate structures for economically challenged individuals, but I think that that's going to be included as part of this agenda, next agenda item. And then just a request that staff follow up with Ms. Urban on her concerns.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, as always. So we'll adjourn to 9:30 at regular meeting on May 8th here at San Luis Valley Water District. Thank you very much.
Good.